There is something deeply powerful about a woman who has learned the value of silence. I'm not talking about oppression. I'm not talking about fear. I'm talking about a woman who has been through enough storms to know that sometimes the greatest answer is no answer at all. She has come to understand that silence is not absence. It is strategy. When a woman holds her tongue, she is not surrendering her strength. She is summoning it. The woman who chooses silence is not void of emotion. She is full of discernment. She knows that the battle she is in is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities in high places. And so she doesn't argue. She doesn't compete. She doesn't react. She retreats into the secret place. That is where her true voice is heard. Not on the stage of opinions, but in the courtroom of heaven. The silent woman is not unseen. She is hidden. God hides what he values. Diamonds are not found on the surface. Pearls are not lying in the street. Gold does not wave at you from the sidewalk. Everything precious is buried, and the same is true for a woman of worth. She is not loud. She is not everywhere. She is preserved, covered, protected by the hand of God. Why? Because she has chosen to trust him enough to be still. She has learned that silence doesn't mean inactivity. It means alignment. She's not busy defending herself because God has already taken up her case. She doesn't fight for a seat at the table because she knows the king has already reserved her place. While others clamor for attention, she listens for instructions. While others shout to be heard, she bows to be led. And because of that posture, heaven moves on her behalf. Tune Mav. There is a reason why the enemy fears a quiet woman, because he doesn't know what she's praying. He doesn't know what she's planning. He doesn't know what God has promised her. Her silence is terrifying to hell, because it means she's no longer reacting emotionally. She's responding spiritually. A silent woman is not inactive. She's incubating purpose. She's carrying something sacred, something heaven breathed. And just like Mary, she treasures things in her heart. She doesn't post them. She doesn't boast them. She protects what she carries. And because of that, God protects her. You see, when a woman becomes silent in obedience, she activates the roar of God. He steps in. He speaks up. He lifts her, shields her, and prepares a table in the presence of those who thought her silence was defeat. But they did not know she was just giving God space to be her defender. Silence is not weakness. It is wisdom under control. It is the mark of someone who has matured beyond the need to prove themselves in every situation. A silent person is not empty. They are full of insight, understanding, and self-mastery. When a woman chooses to be silent, it's not because she lacks the words, but because she understands the weight of them. She recognizes that words are powerful tools, and like any tool, they must be used with purpose. Speaking out of emotion may win an argument, but silence rooted in wisdom wins the war. There are times when the most strategic move is not to speak, but to observe. Silence allows clarity. It gives space for divine perspective. While others are caught in the chaos of reaction, the silent one listens, discerns, and positions herself for the right response at the right time. Silence is not retreat. It is restraint. It is the ability to possess strength, yet choose not to unleash it prematurely. A woman who is silent is not powerless. She is powerful enough to resist the urge to be pulled into noise that doesn't match her purpose. Many confuse silence with passivity, but in truth, silence is an active decision to operate in discipline. It requires more strength to stay quiet than to lash out. It takes a deep understanding of one's identity to remain unmoved when provoked. Silence reveals what noise cannot. It unveils inner stability, peace, and trust in something greater than self-justification. The woman who walks in silence does so because she knows who she is, and more importantly, who she is. She knows her worth doesn't need to be shouted. It is already established. Her silence is not her surrender. It is her signal that wisdom, not impulse, governs her life. God covers those who trust in him more than they trust in their own voice. This kind of trust is not shallow. It is born from a deep relationship with the one who sees the end from the beginning. It is easy to rely on our own understanding, to speak quickly, to defend ourselves, or to explain every move we make. But those who truly walk with God understand that their voice is limited, while his wisdom is limitless. So they choose to lean on his voice, his timing, and his protection, even when silence feels uncomfortable. Trusting God over your own voice means surrendering the need to be heard and choosing instead to be held by his promises. It means resisting the urge to react and allowing God to respond for you. There's a divine covering that rests on those who step back and let God step in. He wraps them in peace, shields them from attacks they never see coming, and answers in ways they never could with mere words. When a woman chooses to trust God more than her own voice, she is saying, Lord, I believe you are my defender. I believe you see what I cannot see, and I trust your judgment over my own. And heaven honors that faith. God surrounds her, fights for her, and elevates her in due time. This covering isn't always visible, but it is powerful. It protects her reputation, guards her heart, and makes her untouchable to schemes that would have destroyed her if she acted in her own strength. Her silence, guided by trust, becomes the very place where God works most profoundly. And while others wonder why she doesn't speak up, heaven is already speaking on her behalf. A silent woman often operates in spiritual discernment, not emotional reaction. Her silence is not emptiness. It is evidence of depth. She has trained herself to listen before she speaks, to observe before she reacts, and to pray before she decides. She understands that every situation doesn't deserve her energy, and every confrontation doesn't require her response. She is not led by what she feels in the moment, but by what she perceives in the spirit. Emotional reaction is immediate, impulsive, and often regrettable. But spiritual discernment is intentional, measured, and wise. This woman has come to understand that life is not just a collection of events. It is a spiritual journey full of assignments, battles, and divine appointments. So she does not waste her voice on distractions. Her silence is a result of discernment that sees beyond the surface. She can detect the difference between what looks urgent and what is truly important. She knows when to speak life and when to remain still. When others are loud in fear, she is quiet in faith. When emotions demand reaction, discernment whispers, wait. A woman like this has cultivated intimacy with God, and because of that, her silence becomes her sanctuary. She chooses to withdraw from drama and dwell in discernment. She doesn't respond to every offense because she understands that not every battle is hers to fight. Her ability to remain quiet in chaos is not denial, it is discernment. She can feel the emotion but refuses to be ruled by it. Instead, she seeks wisdom, clarity, and God's perspective before she opens her mouth. This is what makes her powerful. Her silence is not avoidance, it is alignment. And because she is spiritually aware, her presence carries authority. Her stillness speaks louder than noise. Her calm unsettles chaos. Her quiet spirit shifts atmospheres. Her silence is her strength. It invites the presence of God to fight for her. In a world that values noise and demands instant reaction, her stillness is a sacred signal that she operates by a higher law. She doesn't rush to defend herself, explain herself, or argue her worth. Instead, she creates space for the Spirit of God to move, to speak, to act. Her silence is not passive. It is a declaration of faith. It says, I do not need to fight this. My God will. This kind of strength does not shout. It stands. It doesn't retaliate. It rests in the promise that the Lord is her defender. And when she steps back, heaven steps in. Her silence becomes a spiritual invitation for divine intervention. where human effort would fail, the presence of God prevails. While others are consumed with being seen, she is covered in divine strategy. Her enemies may think she's weak because she says nothing, but they fail to realize she is letting the King of Kings speak on her behalf. Her strength is not in loudness, but in surrender. She knows that when she holds her peace, the Lord fights her battles. That's not just scripture. It's a spiritual principle. The quiet woman is often the one heaven surrounds with fire. Her restraint is a weapon. Her stillness is warfare. Her silence is not empty. It is filled with expectation that God is already handling what she could never fix in her own strength. And because she refuses to move in the flesh, she allows God to move in power. She doesn't need the last word. She needs the right outcome. Her silence becomes her sanctuary. It is in that sacred space that God arises. Justice is set in motion, and her strength is made perfect through him. God hides and preserves the woman who refuses to be led by noise. She is not distracted by the voices that shout for her attention, nor is she moved by the pressure to perform, prove, or please. Instead, she chooses a different rhythm, one that is set by heaven, not by the chaos of culture. While the world chases visibility, she values intimacy with God. While others are chasing the spotlight, she is content in the shadow of the Almighty, knowing that being hidden by God is far greater than being seen by man. The woman who refuses to be led by noise has learned the art of stillness. She filters every voice through the voice of the Spirit. She understands that not every open door is divine, and not every opportunity is ordained. Her discernment has been sharpened in silence, not in noise. So God hides her, not to punish her, but to prepare her. He protects her from premature exposure and covers her from distractions that could destroy her destiny. She may feel overlooked, but she is actually being overseen by heaven. Noise is the enemy of clarity, and she knows this. That is why she chooses peace over pressure. She is not in a rush to respond to critics, to trends, or to opinions. Her steps are ordered, not hurried. And because of that, God surrounds her like a shield. He preserves her mind, her name, her purpose. He puts a hedge around her life because she has chosen to be led by his whisper instead of the world's volume. God hides what he's shaping. He conceals what he's cultivating. And when the time is right, he reveals what he has refined in private. The woman who ignores the noise will emerge not just seen, but sealed, strengthened, and divinely sent. The silent woman chooses purpose over pride. She understands that her calling is greater than her feelings, and her destiny is too sacred to be compromised by temporary emotions. Pride demands a response. Pride says, defend yourself, prove your point, be heard. But purpose whispers, stay focused, stay planted, stay quiet. And she listens to purpose, not because she is afraid to speak, but because she knows that not every battle is worth fighting, especially when it can cost her peace, her dignity, or her assignment. This woman has grown beyond the need to win arguments. She is not chasing validation. Her silence is not about losing her voice, it's about using her wisdom. Pride wants to be seen. Purpose wants to be fulfilled. Pride is reactive. Purpose is intentional. She has chosen to walk the narrow road that leads to impact, not applause. She would rather be aligned with heaven than be admired by people who don't understand the weight of her calling. In her silence, she guards her anointing. She refuses to allow offense, ego, or emotion to interrupt what God is doing in her. She has learned that sometimes silence is not weakness, it's warfare. Pride tells her to make a statement. Purpose tells her to make a difference. So she doesn't get distracted by every opinion, every insult, or every challenge. Her silence is her strategy. It allows her to move in the spirit rather than react in the flesh. Because she has surrendered her pride, God can trust her with influence. He can elevate her without her trying to elevate herself. She doesn't have to push her way forward. Purpose clears the path. And while others are caught up in proving themselves, she stays rooted in her assignment, quietly becoming everything God created her to be. When she is silent before men, she is often loud in the courts of heaven. Her silence on earth does not mean she is inactive in the spirit. While others see a quiet woman, heaven sees a warrior in prayer. Her voice may not echo in rooms of debate or circles of influence, but it rises like incense before the throne of God. She has learned that the most powerful conversations do not happen in crowds. They happen in communion with her Creator. This woman understands that silence is not absence. It is intercession. When she chooses not to argue, she is not suppressing her voice. She is redirecting it to the one who truly hears and responds. She may be quiet before men, but her spirit is crying out before God. And that cry moves heaven. It summons angels. It shifts circumstances. It unlocks favor that no human applause could ever produce. People often underestimate the power of a woman who knows how to stay still on the outside while storming heaven on the inside. She does not seek to be heard by many. She longs to be heard by the one. And because of this posture, God listens. When she speaks in the secret place, things begin to move in the natural, while others are loud but powerless. She is silent but anointed. Her prayers become decrees. Her tears become petitions. Her worship becomes warfare. She understands that what she cannot say to man, she can release to God, and he responds. Heaven takes note of her quiet strength, her unwavering faith, and her refusal to be moved by flesh. She is loud in the realm that matters most, not for attention, but for authority. And when heaven hears her, earth cannot ignore what God does through her silence. So if you are that silent woman, misunderstood, overlooked, and underestimated, know this: your silence is not defeat. It is design. God is shaping you in stillness, guarding you in grace, and preparing you for something far greater than applause. You are not hidden because you are weak. You are hidden because you are holy. While the world chases volume, you walk in vision. While others respond in pride, you respond in purpose. And because you've chosen to be silent before men, heaven has chosen to speak for you. Let them talk. Your silence is your strategy. Let them wonder. Your stillness is your strength. You don't need to announce what God is about to reveal. Keep walking. Keep praying. Keep trusting. Because the woman who refuses to be led by noise becomes the one God uses to silence the storm.